online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another amazing AFTERBUZZ TV after show for your favorite show. It's Hemlock Grove, and we're on season 3, episode 3, The House in the Woods.
3-3.
Yeah, 3-3.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Sean Overman, if you will, and I'm joined here by my awesome and lovely co-host.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marisa Serafini.
And where can we find you, Marisa?
You can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV.
And you guys can find me at Sean Austin O on Twitter and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe to us, AFTERBUZZ TV, on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And give us thumbs up, give us likes, give us reviews. That way we can keep the lights on here at the studio. But today we're going to be talking about so many crazy topics. We're going to nerd out. We're missing Mary Lou Mandel, our co-host.
She'll be back.
She'll be back next week. And she's having some fun in Seattle, I believe, right now, over at Nintendo Con or something like that. So we wish her well. And let's start talking about Roman and what's going on with him.
So much is going on with him.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness, he was all over this episode.
Yeah, so he wakes up, and it's the first thing we get to see. He wakes up in sub-level,
the White Tower.
Was it SL7 thing or PL7? PL7, right?
Yeah.
The place that was restricted access last season. He couldn't get in there.
Well, also, like, level 5 was also restricted, so maybe he's even further down.
Is that it?
He's at 7 now.
Wow, it's even further down now. It looks like the same lab, though.
It does. I mean, they could have redressed that set too. But that was a gorgeous, beautiful shot to open the show with. Like, wow. And how he was just in his circular room.
Yeah.
His circular prison.
Yeah, I like that.
More circles in the show.
More circles. That's right. That's right. And he's pretty much going throughout the maze. He finds his way through. He gets down to finding Annie and Dr. Price. They're looking at the body of what attacked them.
That was pretty cool, pretty gross, but pretty awesome.
yes, it was. It obviously it was a prosthetic mannequin of some kind, right? It had cysts all over its body, pretty much like he said melanomas. Am I right?
Melanoma.
And what was actually really cool about the whole autopsy thing is that because we have an ER nurse there, Annie, she's able to pretty much tell us and translate what Dr. Price is saying.
Break it down to layman's terms. I like that. Very smart. So Annie's cool.
Yeah, she's very cool. So we get them poking and prodding at this thing, and Dr. Price is even like looking at its hands. Obviously, its hands they look like they're in some. It's like an animal, pretty much. Am I right?
It was, but it had a human form to it, which, I mean, Dr. Price was going into the specifics of the body. White Caucasian, 121 pounds.
And it was a female.
Female, yes. Female, 5 feet tall, 8 inches. Makes me think, are all Upirs tall?
I don't know.
Because
Annie's not too tall. Even though she's
taller.
She's taller.
Olivia's tall.
Olivia's very tall.
Roman is taller than her.
All the Upirs we met in this episode did look kind of tall.
Yeah, they look tall. So maybe Upirs are just tall. You can easily point them out because they're tall.
Yeah, so that drinking all that human blood really helps them out.
Probably.
Right? It helps out their growth.
The iron, you know.
The iron, it builds strong bones. They don't need calcium, they need iron.
Maybe. I just wonder why he said the height. It might just be a general autopsy, but it makes me think like all the Upirs that we've seen have generally been tall.
I guess if you said 5'7" or lower, you know, it wouldn't seem as threatening. Maybe. I guess 5'8's pretty tall for a woman, right? So that's why hearing that, I'm like, okay, yeah, If she wears heels, she's gonna be taller than me. I'm like,
Maybe I'm just overthinking it.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
But we have them do the autopsy, and he pulls out one of the incisors.
Oh, that was the worst. I cannot with teeth. I can do anything else, even dissecting the brain. When we get into that, that was totally fun. I can't do teeth pulling.
Okay.
Oh, I have nightmares about losing teeth. It's a legit fear of mine. And then to see it get pulled out with all the sinus and the mucus, and I'm like, oh, that was nasty.
Yeah, it was pretty gross.
Nasty.
You know what? I didn't have a problem with it until you just mentioned that, and now I feel like I'm kind of grossed out, and I'm imagining somebody pulling my teeth.
No, it's so bad. And the fact I watched that particular shot twice is beyond me. I don't know how I made it. But I can't do pulling the teeth, losing of any kind. No.
Yeah, and I thought it was so interesting how after he pulled it out, Dr. Price pulled out the tooth, there was that mucus on there, but it wasn't mucus. He said
venom.
He said it was there was a maxilla
Sinus in the maxilla apparently filled with venom.
Yes, and he's like, what does that sound like? Oupir? And we're like, what? For me, I didn't know that Oupirs had a venom sac in their teeth.
Or it could have been another reptilian figure. Snakes have venom in their teeth.
Oh, okay. So maybe connected to our reptoid people that we've been talking about?
Quite possibly.
Wow. So, but I feel like Price, when he brought that up, he said specifically that's an Oupir quality.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's connected to our reptoid friends.
Or maybe this is a more evolved Oupir.
Okay. All right. I can buy that. Yes, and I do have some conjecture about what's going on with that stuff.
Yeah.
Later on.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. So we fast forward. They do the autopsy. They complete it. We go back to the Godfrey house, Roman's house.
Well, we learn in the brain. Actually, before that, we learn in the brain.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That there's this tumor that is spreading around, but it's spread in several areas: frontal lobe, surrounding the optic nerve, the lateral hypothalamus, and this fusion of cancer and parasitical organism that's manipulating the nervous digestive system and compelling the host consumption of their own species.
That is gross.
Yes. So it's pretty much just telling the audience that this tumor is affecting the behavior of whoever host that's turning against their own species. So Oupirs turning against other Oupirs.
Yeah. So it even said something. You mentioned the digestive stuff, right? I think a little bit about.
It created its own stomach.
It created its own stomach. It was bypassing the esophagus, and whatever it was eating wasn't going to the host stomach. It was going to its own new stomach, which was created under the host stomach. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
That is gross.
Nasty.
And even when he tried to scalpel the thing, it moved away from the scalpel. It's still alive.
Yeah.
That was great special effects
Awesome.
on that. Really good. And it was probably really simple special effects too, like robotic animatronics, right?
Probably, yeah.
And that's now we know that this thing is a parasite.
It is.
It's not just a creature like this new thing. It's probably an Oupir it is an Oupir that's been changed somehow for some reason. We don't know why. And and I'm thinking that this is probably what's affecting Olivia now.
Maybe, or just affecting the other Oupirs that we will see further on in this episode. That
that's right.
There's a living organism that's affecting all of them right now.
Yeah. So later on, we have Roman at his place. He tells Annie, "Oh yeah, okay. Of course you could stay here at my place. You don't have to go to a hotel." And I bet you Annie was happy about that. She's like,
Probably.
I don't want to spend extra money. I want to hang out with this cute.
I don't think money's an
Oupir.
issue for her though.
No.
She's an ER nurse.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's good.
Yeah, I'm sure. She's not as well off as Roman Godfrey is.
True, but Roman has parental business owners. He's an heir.
He is an heir. But we, obviously if we didn't have her in that scene, she wouldn't have discovered what we needed her to, the sketchbook, which is obviously Roman's sketchbook.
Liked it, yes.
Right, which is kind of funny. Like, I would have liked to have seen him, like, drawing in that thing before it was just, like, planted there. It's a little convenient, but they had some obstacles with her looking through other stuff before she found that.
Yeah, well, we did see in season 1 when he was drawing pictures of the angel and whatnot, which was actually him. So I think the audience have already established he likes to draw things that he sees or dreams of or has visions of. So, yeah, but either way, we had this notebook full of all these drawings.
Yes, and she flips it open. She's looking through a few of the pages. A lot of skulls, a lot of death, it looks like.
Yeah.
Roman's clearly a disturbed kid.
It's definitely gothic.
But he is only drawing, like you said, what he sees. And he saw an omul negru, which I looked it up. And did you happen to look it up?
I did.
What is it?
It is boogeyman.
Whoa.
In Romanian.
Yes.
Yes.
In Romanian.
In Romanian.
So creepy. When I looked it up, there's like 27 different terms for boogeyman in different cultures.
Yeah.
And I was scrolling through all the articles on Wikipedia, and I was just like, what? And then of course there's El Cucuy in Mexican, in Spanish rather. And it's just like insane how many. And I was trying to see all the other terms that were beside the omul negru in the sketching, and I was able to find a bunch of stuff. But not all of them were boogeymen, which was actually crazy. I was expecting more of them to be. And
were there more like stories like this that were similar to the boogeyman?
It's kind of hard to say. They were more like, they're more like gods. All right, so we had the Utu was one of them that was near the bottom, and it said and Wikipedia said it was a sun god in Sumerian. So now that I'm hearing Babylonian and Sumerian, and even in the show, we get to meet Nate. He's a Upir anthropologist, right? And very convenient. He knows a lot of this stuff too. But it was just such a cool thing to be able to look all these up. So Omul Negru, we got that's the boogeyman. There's also the Enbelulu. That's a god that knows the secrets of water running beneath the earth. And what does that kind of sound like?
Underworld.
That sounds like well, to me, it sounds like what happened last episode where we had Spivak pushing Miranda.
Oh,
the
last episode.
Yeah, pushing Miranda towards
into
something
into the basement,
and it looked like kind of watery.
Reflection.
Yeah, reflections in the water, and into the just all over the walls. Whoa. So I'm thinking like there's a connection there. That can't be a coincidence. You know, if it is, it's a really big crazy coincidence, but. Then I'm thinking like V for Vendetta. There are no coincidences, only the illusion of coincidences.
Okay.
We also had the Tammuz, which is a Sumerian god of food and vegetation. So now I'm thinking like Spivak is creating some kind of food from the baby, right? Because we had Nate talking about crushing kids into sausages as one of the tales with the crazy Omul Negru, and obviously we had Roman be like, oh no, don't tell me that, because he doesn't want to think about Nadia getting crushed into little pieces.
And then also that's just good writing, just letting the audience, because that was a whole scene of exposition. It's like, nope, stop it, you got to keep watching more episodes to find out more.
Dude,
very smart.
It's really good. I feel like this series is really like a book. It's amazing. Like every episode so far this season has been a cliffhanger, and especially we'll talk about what happened later on. But oh my gosh, like crazy stuff.
So much information.
There's also the Anunnaki mentioned in the Legend of Gilgamesh, and
Gilgamesh.
The Anunnaki are a group of deities, and they set the land ablaze when they returned before the storm. So,
I remember Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh himself is actually immortal as well.
Oh.
Yeah, he's immortal.
So
or he's supposed to be immortal.
Maybe that's like a reference to some of the Upir. Maybe he was an Upir.
Maybe.
Right?
Or another creature that was immortal.
And that's something that I like about this show and shows like Hemlock Grove, where they take things that are in like legend and myth, and then they exaggerate it more.
Expand upon it.
Or in ways make it real too. They like kind of they expand upon it, or even change like little nuanced things to make it like fit the story. I really like that a lot.
So smart.
And one last thing that they had on there was Jinn, and I was like, Jinn, and then he had like it was Roman's writing in cursive, and it said the Jinn, and then he had all these other things about something about universes and whatever, and those are actually genies.
Yeah.
And they're mentioned in the Quran.
Jinn.
Yeah.
J-I-N, right?
Yeah, J-I-N-N. And they're supposed to be neutral, willful creatures like humans, and they're not like angels, which are doing the bidding of gods.
Yeah.
Right? So, but even though they can be neutral, they have also been known to be demonic in some cases.
Yeah.
Which I think, like...
You should read Arabian Nights.
I should, huh?
You should.
I haven't. I've only seen Aladdin.
Oh,
That's
no,
it.
you got to read the actual book. And granted, there's like a million stories within Arabian Nights, but they go heavily into the jinn and genies and whatnot.
Wow.
It's great.
Yeah, I should check it out.
Highly suggest it.
So, I liked in this episode, too, how we got to meet Nate. Already, he seems like he's a prick a little bit. Just a little bit. Like
Pretentious.
A little pretentious, stuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we get introduced to other Upirs in the house. There's, I forgot their names already. I think one of them was Megan.
Megan, this girl who's studying, what was it? Kinesiology? Kinesiology.
Yeah, and she's his
Butchered that. Yeah.
She's his physical therapist.
Mm-hmm. Who he's cheating on Hannah with.
Is that what?
Yeah, that was the whole thing that was going down. Because, like, Annie was giving Nate crap. It was like, where's Hannah? And he was like, this is just my physical therapist over here.
Whoa.
Hannah's coming later.
Whoa. Okay, I totally missed that. So Hannah's...
Yeah, he's a player.
Hannah's his wife?
And Hannah's his actual girlfriend.
It's girlfriend,
and I think,
okay. That's Nate's girlfriend.
Yeah, Hannah's Nate's girlfriend.
And that's Annie's cousin.
And then Megan, yeah.
And then Megan is just this
Megan was just...
random chick.
Someone he's seeing on the side.
Side
chick.
I liked how they did a little reference to Annie's age here. And she was like, well, Roman said, have you slept with Nate? And she responded with, oh, well, everybody was in love on VJ Day. I looked up VJ Day. I did not know what it was, but I kind of knew what it was. That famous pose where, like, there's a sailor kissing a girl randomly in Times Square. Yeah, I didn't know that. So it was August 14th in 1945. So I did some math. I was like, okay, let's just say she was at least 20 back then, right? So if she was 20, maybe, like a young Upir, I'm just underestimating. 20 plus 70, because that's 70 years ago. So now she's at least 90.
She's at least 90.
So she could be much older, obviously. She could be centuries older.
Yeah.
Right? And Roman's like, how old are you? And she doesn't go into details.
I just love that from Roman. I was like, you don't ask a woman her age. And then she just brushed it off.
Even a new peer woman.
Even a new peer. She's been around. She has connections.
Yeah.
Literally.
She does. And that's why we got to meet Nate. They go into his house. Blood is everywhere. But they just treat it so delicately and peacefully.
They seem way more up to like knowledgeable of the Upir culture, especially just being in that hometown. Because like now Upirs are coming out of the woodworks. We only see like one or two Upirs throughout all these seasons, and now we're seeing a bunch of them every single episode, which is great because there is a whole community that we didn't even know of, and Roman's learning it too. So I like the fact that what this family brought, they just brought way more information that the audience and Roman didn't even know.
I would have liked to have had a lot more episodes like this, so we could have learned more about Upir over the course of the whole series, as opposed to just this episode and then we get them wiped out.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer.
They served their purpose, I guess.
They did. Nate definitely served his purpose.
Oh, goodness.
I guess
he had to go.
Yeah, he became very unlikable very easily.
Very easily.
But we had before that, we had him dripping drops into everybody's mouth of RH null.
RH null.
Only 40 donors in the world have this, so it's the world's most rare blood type, apparently.
Yeah, and the interesting, because of course I looked this up too, there's only 40 or so other people on the planet with RH null. Doesn't mean that they're donors. It means that like they're registered that they have RH null. So I think they just kind of expanded on that one little detail.
Yeah.
But RH null blood can be considered universal blood for anyone with rare blood with types within the RH system. Its life-saving capability is enormous.
Woo! And that's why these Upir praise it so much, because it's like a vintage
the
wine.
Holy Grail.
Yeah, it's the Holy Grail of blood. And he just has a vial in it, probably like a couple hundred cc's, and he's just dropping it one drop at a time into everybody's mouth, like
they're basking in it.
Yeah, like taking a sip of a really old Pinot Noir or something. I don't know, man, but I thought that was so funny. We also had the blood pudding too, which was kind of gross.
Yeah,
a little bit,
but apparently it tasted really good.
I guess so. And I guess my whole thing about Roman, like, being allergic to the blood, like Olivia, is like totally out the window now, because he had a drop of that blood, he sipped some of this, so that's not what put him into that seizure.
Yeah.
It was a concussion, according to...
And that's what I'm thinking. Roman's still physically connected to whatever affected this body. Not by blood, but by something else.
Oh, by something else, huh?
Maybe something neurological. Maybe it is something anatomically in physiology like that. But I don't know. I don't think the blood sucking was the case.
No.
But that was a lot of blood.
Yeah, there's a lot of blood in a pot. So Nate, he gives more explanation when they go into a study. I liked his study, by the way.
I liked all those books. Yeah,
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah, it's great study.
He talks about what the Omol Negru really are. And they were supposed to be, from Norse mythology, it was a giant serpent, which is Ouroboros, essentially. And it's actually, the word that he used was, gosh, I have to really look at this closely, Jormungandur.
Yeah.
And when I see
He
the
said
way
it really fast, like Jormungandur.
yeah, the way it's spelled and everything, and I'm already thinking like Mjolnir, which is Thor's hammer. And how funny, when I did more research on it, it's actually the arch enemy of Thor in mythology, which is pretty crazy.
There you go.
So it's in Norse and Babylonian myths, and it encircles the world, right? So what I thought about that when he said that was, it's encircling the world to like exert control over it, maybe to choke the world, to destroy everything. But actually, if it lets go, it's biting its tail. It's not eating its tail.
Yeah.
It's just holding its
holding
tail.
it.
So if it lets go, the world actually ends. So that's like
The world ends or reverses back to normal.
Oh, see, I don't know about that. So, well, maybe the world from its control perspective is destroyed.
Yeah, because right now it's like this serpent, this Ouroboros, is constricting the world. But if you think of it, if you unconstrict it, if you release it, then say like the whole act of choking.
Yes.
When you constrict the airways, you can't breathe, but when you let it go, then you can. And everything reverts back to normal, and you have that equilibrium again. So maybe it would do that for the world.
That is actually a much better metaphor. I like that.
That's how I saw it.
No, that's a good one. Yeah, so we need to get rid of Ouroboros.
Or we just need to stop it from killing everything.
Yeah, we need to stop it and the Omol Negru from destroying everything. And then guess what happens? Hannah comes back, pissed as ever.
Oh, she did look scary though.
Yeah, we didn't get a clear look at her face, which was actually cool. It made her scarier.
It was hard to tell because when we were first introduced to her, all we knew was that Hannah was coming later, but we as the audience never saw who this Hannah was, and then we saw a crazy looking girl. We're like, oh wait, this is Hannah. She's supposed to be normal, but she's being affected right now.
I wonder how quickly the tumors or the disease progresses in the Upir body, because if Nate didn't notice anything was wrong with her, and how long has she been gone from his sight, right? You think him as like an anthropologist, like some kind of like educated guy would notice there's something wrong with his girlfriend. Right.
I think maybe like at least 24 hours.
Okay.
Quite possibly.
24 hours and it progressed that quickly?
Well, regular diseases can progress in 24 hours. Why not?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. And
why not in Upirs?
Yeah, why not in Upir, which is probably more exacerbated than regular human diseases.
Quite possibly. And if it is a living organism parasite thing that's going through them, it could be even at a faster progressive rate.
Yeah, I'm wondering why though. Okay, so if they have the disease and they're killing other Upirs, how does it get to another Upir if they kill them completely and their heart's gone and their body's dead? The host body is dead, then how can it spread, right? That's my question.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we see the Upirs attacking each other, they're going for the chest.
Yeah.
And as we know, during the autopsy in the chest area, the whole organism is covering that area. So maybe by physically touching that area, it's affecting them too.
Okay, so perhaps once the
contact.
Yeah, just physical contact.
Quite possibly.
Which doesn't bode well for Price, which we'll talk about later on.
Right.
I wonder how it affects humans. So we have Roman find out that light distracts the organisms because and I thought it was so funny how there was a light switch outside. I was like, that's kind of odd. You know, like I've seen light switches outside.
For sheds? No.
Yeah, for sheds. I've seen light switches outside, but then again, we live like in a really urban environment here in LA, so we don't see it as often anymore. Like I used to live in the country too.
I was like, I lived in the country and we had a light outside, so it was nothing new to me.
Okay. So, but it was convenient because he flipped that switch and it just totally froze them. Then later on,
I was like, that's very vampire-like, which I actually like because, you know, their whole take on vampires now appears that they can walk in the day, which, as we know in the whole vampire lore, that vampires can't walk in sunlight. So I like how they actually took that kind of behavioral pattern and actually applied it to this virus or whatever's going on. It's like, hey, light actually affects them now.
In some way, it freezes them, which is so funny. So it must like just maybe mess with their neurons or something so they can't have bodily control anymore.
The optic nerve, which it affects their vision.
Yeah, well, it affects
possibly.
But why would they just freeze? If it was only their vision, why would they completely freeze and not try to like lash out still and hit somebody? I feel like the tumors are connected to the optic nerve in such a way that it affects the whole tumor, and it like just I don't know, it does something like the photons like distract them somehow.
Maybe, and it's also connected to the frontal lobe that maybe it just shuts down brain function.
Brain functions.
Yeah, it just brain function in general because it was mostly in the brain and the chest area because it was the optic nerve, the hypothalamus, and the frontal lobe. So maybe it just shut down brain function.
I like the way you think, Marissa. Yes, good explanation. So we have him use that on them, but then the battery starts to die. What are they gonna do? They have the light on them at the window. Okay, what are we gonna do? Back away slowly? They just took too long. They could have left the light there, pointed at them, maybe like turned it a little bit, but they didn't do that. Yeah. Nate runs away like a little punk.
I know. That's a nicer word for it. What frustrated me is how they were always by the windows. Like, get away from the windows. They're going to break in and attack you. That's too simple.
Having these infected Oopiers this way, it's pretty much the zombie equivalent of an Oopier. Am I right?
Yes, I know.
We have the zombie trend going through everything.
Watching the scene, I was just literally, I think I put it in my notes, this is a straight horror movie right now.
Yeah.
This is things you actually see in scary movies.
Even vampires have something to fear now.
Yeah.
In Hemlock Grove.
Oh, goodness.
But actually, I don't think it was Hemlock Grove where they're particularly in now. What was it? It's called East Cornwall, I think.
Cornwall, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a real place. I didn't research that. But I thought it was interesting how one of the other Oopiers said, it was the husband, he said that 35% of their little city, their little burg, is Oopier. What? Over a third of the population?
So I guess the Oopiers just all came and drove and settled at East Cornwall.
Yeah, I guess so, right? So thankfully, Nate was a good enough distraction for his girlfriend.
Okay.
Oh, what?
The hypothalamus controls the autonomic nervous system and the secretion of hormones.
Oh.
So it probably did shut down their nervous system.
Okay, I can see that.
For the light.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good.
Got it.
And they're able to get away. It's daytime now, right? By the time they leave.
Yeah, they had to wait them out.
They had to wait him out, but they were able to run into the forest while they were distracted eating Nate.
Mm-hmm. That was good because he said that whole line, especially because we did see that moment when Annie and Roman was actually very vulnerable and it became very humanistic.
Oh yeah.
Right now, when he, came to terms with who he is, what he did, and he was, he raped Letha and he is the father, and that was a very real moment with Roman.
I liked that moment. It was very genuine. It was funny how Nate spoiled it at the end because he just came in the tail end of what he was saying. And he's just like, oh, God, you don't have to cry about it. It's like, well, let's give another reason to hate Nate.
I know. I was like, it's good that you got, them all mangled up at the end.
So I don't think anybody could have put it more concisely and simply what happened to Roman that first season. Because the whole time I actually was thinking that he was doing it of his own volition. Actually impregnating Letha, for some twisted reason, we've kind of forgiven him over the past couple of seasons, but now we know that it was actually Olivia who was manipulating, just like she was manipulating everybody. I forgot that was her power in the first season.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, also in the book, the first season, they went into how Olivia did control him through the X-Dance and all that. So that's one of her pure powers.
Yeah, and that's right. I forgot. See, no one's used it in such a long time, the X-Dance.
And Roman was trying to, like, pretty much remember, he kept staring into the mirror, and he was building up a resistance towards a tolerance, I guess, for it.
For, like, he was trying to do it on himself.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're going back.
We are really going back to season 1 here. But now we know that he was manipulated by his mother to try to exert some control over him and the new baby. And probably Letha, too. Mm-hmm. So this is just a messed up family. Olivia,
really messed up.
Olivia is such a monster.
She is, and especially because Letha was the daughter of Norman. And how much did Olivia actually love Norman? A lot, to a certain extent.
Yeah, in season 2, she loved him a lot. Yeah,
to a certain extent.
Yeah, but then she ripped out his heart.
Nope.
Yeah, she did what the
hell has no fear.
No, she did. Yes, and she did what the infected Upirs are doing now.
Yeah, but that was just out of her.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I'm actually thinking that she is infected because she ripped out his heart, and that's the MO of the other Upirs that are infected.
Yeah, but right? that was more out of spite.
Yeah,
than than the actual organism affecting.
Yeah, it probably hadn't progressed.
That was her character, really.
That was her character. She did it knowingly. Yeah. Anyway, was there anything else that we want to talk about regarding Roman? That was a lot.
That was a lot. Yeah, we spent a lot of time.
This was a very Roman-heavy episode, and we didn't get much of the other characters except for, I think maybe Price was the next biggest subject we got. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. Well, let's talk about Ochoa and Olivia next, since we're on Olivia. Mm-hmm. So not too much with them. We get to see Ochoa giving Olivia more information.
Yeah.
He was in Roman's house and he heard the toilet flush. So he assumes that there's someone else in the house, which could be Shelley.
Don't ever assume.
What kind of a private detective is this guy?
I know, don't ever assume.
Right? He's the worst private detective ever. I mean, he finds all this other cool stuff, but it's like, you can't do
when it comes to common sense.
I know. Why would you even tell your client some like misinformation?
Some girl.
Yeah. So I think it was a girl, right? He must have had a girl upstairs. It was probably Shelley. Why would you do that?
No. It's like, how did you even put 2 and 2 together?
Yeah. So anyway, he gets her into the house too. Oh, you know what? Back up a little bit. Before that, he's giving her the money that Roman paid. What? I don't get what's going on. Could you help explain, Marisa?
It's very confusing because I think that's also there's also an agreement between Olivia and Ochoa that because every time those two meet, Olivia's always saying you got to keep working for Norman. Sorry, not Norman.
Roman.
For Roman, because Roman will pay you. So keep that money flowing. And then, as we know, Olivia's going through financial struggles. That like some of that money from from Ochoa will go to Olivia.
Yeah,
that doesn't seem right because it should be Olivia paying Ochoa.
Yeah, exactly.
But unless Olivia's paying him in other ways,
which I think is happening, she's probably sleeping with him. That's got to be the only explanation.
I know there's a lot of sexual tension going on there.
Or she's using X-Stance on him and we're not seeing it.
Quite possibly, yeah.
She's compelling him to count the money and to give it to her. She could be doing that. Why not?
She could.
Right?
That's definitely a good possibility.
We just don't see it, or it's just, I don't know.
I think she's very dependent on Roman's money in paying Ochoa, so she can get paid as well.
Yes. She needs the money to live.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how is she going to pay for that small, tiny, seedy apartment that she's got in Logan's Gardens?
She needs to get out of there.
Yeah.
Logan's Garden. Far from a garden.
Yes, exactly. Far from her greenhouse that she had.
It's true.
But not too much else on them too, except for at the very end where we get that huge cliffhanger with the video, and he was paying a lot of attention to Dr. Price and seeing his what he was researching online. So we see the video, and it's something like 1945, like some kind of test in a laboratory. It looked like World War II style. They dropped in a rat that had something injected in it. We don't know what. right?
It was obviously affected.
It was obviously infected. It was
Deformed.
very deformed. It looked like it was skeleton in nature almost, right?
Monster in nature.
Yes, monstrous. And it goes after the other rat, its own species.
Its own species.
So there's a parallel between what's going on with that rat and what's happening now with the Upirs attacking each other.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just like blown away by what was on that video, and Olivia looked shocked.
Yeah, and I think because we now know there's the photograph that Spivak was a part of this. So do you think Spivak's the one injecting all the Upirs
Yes.
with this so-called venom so they can take out their own species?
Yes.
And then Spivak's species will be the rising
Yes.
species? I'm like figuring all this out as I'm speaking.
Yes, that's what I was doing. I was writing that in my notes the whole time. It was going to be part of my predictions later on.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
I kind of figured that out.
Yes, it was a good organic moment for you to figure that out.
Yeah, but also we did learn that Pearl, Spivak's nurse, gave Olivia a flu shot.
That's right.
And we all know Spivak's been pretty crazy. Who knows what kind of injections he's been giving to everybody else, and like all these serums and whatnot he's been injecting into people. He could have injected Olivia with this virus
He
thing.
probably did, and that's probably why there's so many Upir that are infected now. Who knows when he started doing it? Let's just say he started doing it in season 2. And season 2 to now, at the end of season 2 to now, has been 6 weeks. So we have a 6-week incubation period for this stuff to start happening, which I could see that taking a while for something like that big, a tumor that huge, to grow and proliferate throughout the body.
Yeah.
Right?
And that definitely works with rats because mice live for 3 weeks and then they live on their own.
Yeah, and their bodies are much, they obviously die a lot quicker. They have a smaller lifespan. It probably takes something the size of a human, an Upir, a lot longer to have the tumor grow.
6 weeks.
Yeah. So
Possibly.
if, let's just say that we had Dr. Spivak be the only doctor in that county, right? And it's a small county, let's just say. We have him injecting everybody, every Upir that he knows is an Upir in Hemlock Grove. And every Upir that he knows is an Upir who were visiting from East Cornwall to get their flu shots, right? I don't know why Upirs need flu shots, by the way.
Yeah, they're immortal.
Yeah,
Come on.
Unless they're trying to play it up like, oh yeah, I'm human, so I have to do this for my job. That's probably it right there. They gotta be undercover about it.
Well, and a lot of the positions, they're usually medical positions that they're physical, they're front that they give to the public, like doctors, nurses, whatever. Right. So, and even them, they have to just get regular medicine and shots just for employment.
Just for the sake of having the credential to say I'm flu shot vaccinated.
Yeah, I'm
for
vaccinated.
This season. Yeah. This is crazy, man. Like, we're uncovering so many things with this conversation.
Crazy.
Oh my gosh. I think there wasn't much else about Olivia and Ochoa. Let's talk about Shelley and her encounter with a new character named Aitor Quantic.
Aitor, or is it Aitor?
Aitor Quantic.
Aitor.
Yeah, so
interesting name.
Interesting name. I like this jacket. Reminds me of the 70s, 80s a little bit. Really cool leather on there with the
He's old school.
The puffy stuff, right? So this guy is a real good fellow. He goes to the steel mill, which is now called Rooster Poot.
Rooster Poot, which actually, I was looking at this. Urban Dictionary says it's slang for sperm or jism.
Oh, no.
Which is so named because it's the excrement of roosters.
Oh, my gosh.
So, Rooster Poot.
That is so funny because I didn't look up slang dictionary, but I looked up just slang for it in general, and I thought it was a rooster fart. But I guess it's more than that.
It's Rooster Poot.
That's pretty gross. But it makes
It's a fun word, though.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. He said he wouldn't know a poot if he stepped on it. Well, I guess you would step on it.
That would make sense, though.
Yeah.
That is poot.
That totally makes sense now because it's like the jizz of all the people who are like slime and the gutter of society living in this place,
the
right?
homeless.
Yeah. Like it's just like unsavory people. I'm not saying homeless people are unsavory.
No.
But just like the drug addicts in that place were injecting themselves in their mouths the last episode, and it's just
all the downtrodden.
Yeah, all the downtrodden. It's terrible. It's obviously we have the White Tower in the town, and then we have the extreme of that, which is the steel mill, both owned by Godfrey Industries, right, at some point.
So pretty much they own the whole town.
They own the whole town, yeah. So it's funny to see the people who are super rich in Godfrey, and then now the super poor are in the Godfrey, another Godfrey
Also being
building.
affected by the Godfreys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just
Crazy.
It's a fascinating contrast. But we have Aitor.
Ator.
We have Aitor.
Two vowels together.
So we have him telling stories to all the downtrodden people who live there in the steel mill in Roosterpoot. And he's like their reverend.
Yeah, I actually like his stories because they had good metaphors. Especially, I mean, he was talking about Ulysses S. Grant, who also helped with, the whole Civil War and taking down the Confederates and leading a country. And then also...
But he said something about him never taking out his Johnson and always being, like, really, really well-dressed, right? Never being naked, ever seen, even seen naked.
He always, like, keeps his cool, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then we also had the other story about the hippo and the whale.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. It was a total metaphor.
Totally. For Shelley.
For Shelley, and not only Shelley, but just all the people there, all the unfortunate souls who are staying there at Roosterpoot. They're on the outskirts of society. They don't know what their purpose is. But you know what? Sometimes someone has to just lead you, and who is like you, and give you that purpose, which I thought was really cool. And then he ends it with Moses, Mo the whale, or hippo turns into Moses the whale, leading everybody out of bondage.
Wet Moses.
That was so cool.
It was amazing.
I really like it. He's very charismatic with those people.
And he has a good perspective on life, and especially when we see that he could have thrown away all this food, but no, he's like, I'm gonna use it to help people who actually need it.
Yeah, exactly. And he has a couple of scenes with Shelley that pretty much his introduction when he's with her in the hallway, and he talks about her face being so damn chaotic on that right side, which was so funny. But he, in a way, he was talking about like beauty having symmetry, but at the same time, asymmetrical things are very beautiful too. And seeing Shelley, we've gotten to know her for so many seasons now. She has a very asymmetrical face, but she's grown on us. Like, we really like her character, and we're like, hey, I don't care if she has one huge fisheye, whatever, right?
What was the line he said? This whole gestalt is cool.
Yeah. It's just
I like that. Like, so it doesn't bother him. Because he likes, especially going off of his story that he just, said, that he likes individuality. It doesn't bother him.
Yeah, exactly. So we get to meet him, and I guess his story is going to further develop with Shelley's. He's going to have something to do with her in the following episodes. And is that Richard Gunn?
That is Richard Gunn.
All right, so we may have him in
studio. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Get ready for that.
All right. Next, we're going to talk about our two favorite people. Let's talk about Peter first, since he had very small lines and roles. They're important, though. Very few, but important. So we have him and Andreas. Andreas, I feel like, had more lines than Peter. Andreas went crazy ape crap this episode, man.
He did.
What?
What are you doing?
What's going on with this guy? I
Don't
liked
give us
him.
reasons to hate you.
He was so funny before, and now, like, I've just switched off to this dude. I feel like he is just a bad person now.
He's becoming very unlikable.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Yeah, I thought him, like, walking around naked before was, like, comical and funny, but now I feel like, no, he's just an alpha male. He's just trying to assert his dominance over Destiny and Peter and everybody else in his group, right?
And I like how Peter's like catching on to all of this, and he's like, "Hey, what are you bringing into Destiny's house? What are your actions are affecting all of us, not just you."
Yeah.
And it's like, think about everything you're doing.
Destiny has a vision because Peter talks to her, right? She has a vision, very ambiguous vision. I don't know what to make of it. It looks happy, but then maybe we didn't get to see the whole vision, and there's something else there, because Destiny's kind of smiling a little bit when he comes in and kisses her, right?
Right. I put, because we see that vision of an outdoor of a church or whatnot, and then I said, children happy, no marriage, though. We didn't see a marriage. So it could be anything that happens in a church, whether it be marriage or death.
Oh.
Or funeral.
Wow. A happy funeral. Well, kids would play anywhere,
kids
right?
Wouldn't know.
They would play.
So.
Despite it being a funeral.
It could be a funeral.
Whose funeral, though?
Andreas.
No.
I predicted a long time ago that I think he's going to die.
I really liked him last season, and I liked him at the beginning of the season, but now in episode 3, he's just turned out to be such a jerk.
Yeah.
He just keeps getting into trouble.
Well, he has the rest of the season to, turn back to good, I guess.
He's smart, though. He's really trying to build an empire for himself there in Hemlock Grove.
But eventually he's going to catch up to him and kick him in the behind.
Yeah, so we're going to see what happens next episode. Let's talk about Price really quickly, because I know we only have a few minutes remaining. Price does that cool autopsy. He has great lines. We're going to talk about him in our Mad Price Talk segment, which will be a quick minute. But he could possibly be infected now. He still had his gloves on, and he has the blood from the organism all over it. Mm-hmm. He rubs his eyes because he's so tired.
Popping pills.
Popping his stimulants probably, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, no. And he goes... Other choice words. But I love Joel De La Fuente. He's amazing. His acting is superb, man. Joel, please, come back to our show. Come back to our show. But he goes over to the chemical wash. I'm like, okay, good. But then even after he washed his eyes, there's still red, discoloration that occurs after the chemical wash.
Which really made me nervous because that was very close to the eye, which we know, optic nerve. It affects the optic nerve.
Oh my gosh. So he actually passes out when he's trying to get an epi shot, right? But I'm wondering, is that Price now? What if the tumor has already embedded itself into him? What if he didn't want to get an epi shot? What if he wanted to get some other thing to straight up kill himself, or some other medicine to really cure it?
I think he was actually generally going for the epi shot because he's dying.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's the act of this shutting down the central nervous system. He couldn't physically even move. Oh my Someone else had to inject him.
Damn, he is infected.
That was really fast. But he's human.
He is human.
How would it affect him?
He's gonna attack. What's his name? Blinsky. Klaus Blinsky.
Klaus.
Thank you, Klaus. But
so good.
I love how later on he's supposed to be resting. He is drumming away on everything that you can get in the lab. He was really good, and now I know why Dr. Price's arms are so buff now this season, because he is just working those things out, man. He's working those guns.
I loved how he had all these medical equipment that he was all the scissors and scalpels.
Yeah,
it was great.
He only had, I think he had drumsticks, right?
Yes.
Everything else was from the lab. He had buckets, and then he had forceps. Actually, I thought they were scissors. Yeah. I thought they were scissors at first too. I was like, that'd be really dangerous. So they were forceps. But he has some really good lines, which we're actually going to talk about very quickly in our special segment, which is Mad Price Talk.
Mad Price Talk.
So, Marisa, you had a really quick, cool line to talk about.
Goodness. Okay. You really want me to say the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. So my Mad Price Talk was, here we go. This is what Mad Price says when Klaus jumps in on him and he's drumming and he's talking about why he didn't sleep. But as I was drifting off, I had a thought. The specific anaplastic cellular structures resemble the procession of the horsemen in the Parthenon frieze, which reminded me of an article in The Lancet about equine telomeres and cellular immortalization, which has prompted a theory about the physiology of the Spivak's creature. Well, in short, drumming is helping me access my right brain.
Wow.
Yes.
That is so good.
Brilliant.
Oh my gosh. Dr. Price. Joel De La Fuente, you're amazing.
I don't know how he memorized that.
It's great. He also said in the beginning of the episode, fingers are ossified, flexed to an immobile claw-like configuration with thickened hypertrophic claws. All the better to rip your heart out with, my dear.
Yeah.
Which is so great. I love it.
The wolf.
The
Amazing.
wolf. Yes. Wolf. Anyway, so let's do some really quick predictions.
Your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
Marisa, what do you got?
Ooh, okay. I still think there's an astronomical change that's going to go on that's changing the Upirs, and now we also have this virus thing that's physically changing their Upirs and turning on themselves. But because we did see, we saw Andreas get very dark, and he almost turned on his own kind too. So I think it's just species turning on each other, not just within Upirs, but Vargos can turn on each other too. So that's where I think the astronomical change is coming in. And then as for the RH null, if Olivia got a hold of that she essentially would be cured because that's a universal curing type of blood.
Oh.
So if she got a hold of RH0, she'd be on top of the world.
Wow.
And then in Spivak's basement, maybe he's harvesting more creatures of his kind from the water. Like he's there,
growing them.
He's growing them in the water down there.
Yeah.
Because if it is a water reflection that we saw down there, and he's feeding them, he fed. Ooh, I don't want to say it. Maybe he fed her.
Miranda.
Yeah, Miranda.
No.
I don't know.
Wow. That would be crazy.
That's dark.
I hope not. I hope not. But I don't see her name like on the main cast in the beginning anymore. So I'm thinking that...
And Chessur's dead.
And Chessur's definitely
Michael's pretty much dead, too.
Yeah, he was bleeding out.
Yeah.
I want to just give a couple quick predictions. I feel like Olivia is going to be infected. She's going to turn. We're going to see her for sure by the end of the season. She'll be turning, and she's a deadly foe. So I feel like anybody who comes up against her, they're going to get their heart ripped out again.
So it's like what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
She ripped out Norman's heart, so someone's got to rip out her heart.
And I wonder if Shelley, I'm feeling like Shelley's going to get stronger from this encounter with Ator, and maybe she's going to be the one to do it. Maybe she's going to be the one to kill Olivia by the end.
Oh,
yeah.
I like the Ator. Ator seems like a really good fit for Shelley right now, because Shelley just needs a friend.
Yeah. She definitely does. And it's nice to have... This is going to be her male adult role model who replaces Norman now.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think that about does it for us here at AfterBuzz TV's Hemlock Grove After Show. Be sure to tune in next week where we have her scheduled. Mm-hmm. Our awesome and lovely guest is going to be...
Camille de Pazis.
Camille de Pazis.
Yes.
All right.
She plays Annie.
She plays Annie on the show. So
yes.
we're going to be welcoming her hopefully next episode. In the meantime, where can we find you, Marisa?
You can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV.
And you guys can follow me at Sean Austin O. That's SeanAustino on Twitter and Instagram. And be sure to check out my book, City of Angels and Discontent. That is on the iTunes bookstore. Check it out. Download it. Download the free sample for sure. And leave me a review. Thanks so much, guys. And we'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.